So the first thing I want to tell you is thank you very much for being here. And I want to let you know that I am not a professional. I am not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I am not a doctor. I cannot diagnose anyone, nor can I prescribe medication. I am not perfect. However, I am a child of God. And I am here to give you the information that I have found. Tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 3 YouTube quick videos that my counselor had told me about on Monday. And I thought I would share that with you guys and maybe get some feedback on what you think. Now, the first one is more of an introduction to the gentleman, and he has written several books. So he's a, like a worldwide author type deal. And then after we watch each one, I think there's 3 of them. They're like 8 minutes long, give or take. I thought we would discuss it, see what you guys think of it all, and we'll just go from there. All right. So let me get, I don't know if I can do that. Okay, there's that. So now let me turn that around. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. Trying to make it so that way you guys are not in my video, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that or not. All right. So this, don't even ask me to pronounce his name. It's like Bessel Kolk, I think is what it is. So let's go ahead and start this. There will be ads, by the way.
Trauma is so ubiquitous that if you think you have never seen it, you have not looked.
All right. Actually, let me turn the volume up first. Bear with me. I apologize for that. Oh, it is up. Okay, never mind. I just didn't think it was loud enough. Please tell me if you guys can hear that okay.
We meet people who fly off the handle. We meet people who shut down. We meet people who are very difficult. It is a rare family that doesn't have a drug addict, alcoholic, disturbed person. One thing I like to say when I give a lecture, are there any normal people who come from normal families in the audience? And sometimes 1 or 2 people raise their hands, say, can I please come to your family for Thanksgiving? Because I've never been to a normal family. My name is Bessel Kolk. I'm a psychiatrist, neuroscientist. I have been studying trauma for about 50 years now. I've treated a whole variety of different traumatized populations, see trauma in many different countries around the world, and I am the author of the book, The Body Keeps Its Score.
I want to get that.
5 words.
And again, there's going to be commercials, so I apologize in advance, but there's nothing I can do about that.
It's important for people to realize that not every mental health professional knows what we're talking about here. The mainstream system of psychiatry, psychology is that there is something wrong with you and I need to fix you. That's a very different attitude than dealing with trauma. Around that time that I first started to work for the VA, a group of us started to define what trauma is and started to define what happens to people. 1978 was the year, and the Vietnam War was over by about 6 or 7 years. The very first day that I met Vietnam veterans, I was just blown away. They kept referring back to their dead comrades. Their hearts seemed to be with the people who were no longer around. They had a hard time loving their wives and girlfriends. They had a hard time being in any way meaningfully involved in the present. These were guys who were my age, who were smart and competent, but they clearly were just a shadow of their former self. And what was also really striking is they were sort of passive much of the time, and then people told them something that was disappointing, and they went from 0 to 10 and blew up and became extremely angry. Something seemed to have happened to them that made it very hard for them to modulate their responses to the environment. My colleagues and I started to think about how is what these guys suffer from different from what other people who are in psychiatry textbooks suffer from. So I dug up a book that was written in 1941 by Abram Gardner, who had been working with World War soldiers. He writes, these guys suffer from a physioneurosis. Their bodies continue to re-experience that very terrible, frightening situation. And that event keeps coming back in terms of images, behaviors, and physical sensations. So that became at the core of our definition of PTSD. We write, these people have been exposed to an extraordinary event that's outside of normal human experience. And in retrospect, that shows us how ignorant and narrow-minded we were, because it turned out that this is not an unusual experience at all. Trauma is actually, unlike what we first thought, extremely common. 1 out of 5 women in America has a history of sexual molestation. Even a lot of men have histories of sexual molestation. 1 out of 4 kids get beaten very hard by their parents. 1 out of 8 kids see physical fights between their parents. People usually think about the military when they talk about trauma, but when we started to work with inner city kids, the amount of trauma that these kids experienced was just unspeakable. The nature of trauma is that an experience enters into your ears, into your skin, into your eyes, and it goes down into a very primitive part of your brain that automatically interprets what's going on. Is this dangerous or is this safe? An event becomes traumatic when there is nothing you can do to stave off the inevitable, and your body starts automatically going to a state of fight, flight, or collapse. The lingering effect of trauma is that you continue to react to mild stressors as if your life is in danger. And so you tend to become hyper-reactive. Somebody may irritate you in the supermarket. You may develop road rage. You may have a difficult time putting up with misbehavior from your spouse or your kids. And most people actually are barely aware or not aware at all that their reactions that they're having right now are actually rooted in experiences they have had before. That event itself is over, but you continue to react to things as if you're in danger. So the big challenge of treating trauma is, how do we help people to live in bodies that feel fundamentally safe? The tradition in mental health is to dismiss the reality of people's lives. For example, it's only in the past few years that people are beginning to talk about the impact of poverty, or the impact of racism, or the impact of unemployment. And people have sort of been labeling people, oh, there's something wrong with you, let me fix you. But if you go to a physician or a mental health practitioner who doesn't understand that, they're going to try to fix you with drugs or cognitive behavioral treatment to not do these crazy things anymore. It usually doesn't work very well. But what's very clear is that being in a relationship where people can hear you, where you can talk about how badly you feel, where you can talk about your guilt, and where you can start opening up where these feelings come from, how old these feelings are, and how you develop these feelings in response to particular things that happen to you, that was actually quite helpful. Because you need to really develop a deep sense of, this is what happened to me. This is what I'm dealing with. And I need to take care of the wounds that I'm carrying inside of myself. This issue of self-compassion and really knowing that your reactions are understandable and are rooted in you getting stuck in the past is a terribly important part of beginning to recover from trauma. Most of us are survivors of one thing or another, some much worse than others. And so if people say, what do you wish your legacy were? They say, I want our society to know about trauma and to really do all the things that are necessary so that people who grow up under extreme adverse conditions can develop a brain and a mind that can help them to become full-fledged members of society. That's our big issue, and that's the big challenge that we have.
All right. So that right there will take care of the very first video that we are going to watch tonight. What are your guys' thoughts so far on what you've heard? Brixa, I will address that later. And yes, Loops, that is true. I need to plug in my cell phone here. So what are your guys' thoughts on what you have seen so far? So that's just one video that we're going to watch. We're going to watch more, but I just need to know, what are your guys' thoughts on it so far? Are you talking to people? So for instance, with me, I've been abused all my life. So are you saying that I personally don't want to deal with it, or the people that know me don't want to help me deal with it? I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Drinking warm water before bed balances blood sugar levels and reverses type 2. Thousands of people are apparent.
Rixa, I am so sorry that happened to you, dear. We will talk more about that, I promise. But right, some people do shut down because it's one of those fight, flight, or what's the other one? So fight, flight, or freeze moments. Okay, I'll definitely take a look at it. You're more than welcome to stay until the end, and we can talk about it then if you want. Tonight we're going to be watching like 3 quick videos from this gentleman here. He wrote a book called How the Body Keeps the Score, and I thought it was just so interesting. I thought I'd share it with you guys. It's something that my counselor had brought to my attention. All right, hon. I personally didn't shut down. What I did is I kind of boxed it up and I hid it for so long that I didn't think it happened to me. So, yeah, for a long time I did, until it just popped up one day. And now I have to start dealing with it. And I think, if memory serves me correctly from what my counselors, because this is not my first one, my counselors have said that what it is to protect you, because you're not mentally, that's right, it's a defense mechanism. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I was not ready to deal with it at that time. Now that I'm older, way too much older, well, like gray in there. There is also that some people don't want to forget and move on. Me, I don't think I'll ever forget, but I want it to not hurt so much. I want it to be like, I can just say the weather's green, right? And have it not affect me without too much drama in my life type deal. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So what did you think of the first one? Okay, you liked it. Thank you. If I can have you guys keep tapping the screen, get more people back in here, I'd appreciate that. V, where is your husband? Okay. All right. So the next one by him is going to be 6 ways to heal trauma without medication. This is what he says. And then I'm going to go to healing trauma and how the body keeps the score, which will be the 3rd video that we're going to watch. And I'd like to discuss this with you guys. So let me get this ready here. I dropped scissors. It's on my YouTube channel. So let's take a, whoops. So you can always go back to my YouTube channel when that happens. I got to pick up my scissors, guys. Hold on. In fact, I'll put them away so that doesn't happen again. All right. So this right here is the 2nd video. So let's see what happens on this one.
I was raised in the mainstream culture where if you feel bad, you take something to make that feeling go away. Around that time that I first started to work for the VA, I looked at the treatments that we have. I did the first study on Prozac for PTSD, the first study for Zoloft for PTSD, and a number of other conventional drugs. what we found is that it didn't work very well. Our conventional way of thinking about it is not working. I thought, okay, if it doesn't work, let's see what else can work. My name is Bessel van Kolk. I am a physician, I'm a psychiatrist. I have been studying trauma for about 50 years now. The nature of trauma is that something happens to you, your survival brain makes the first interpretation and says, is this dangerous or is this safe? So it's very important to really be aware that these reactions emanate from your body. And so the big challenge of treating trauma is how do we help people to live in bodies that feel fundamentally safe?
The best prayer to attract wealth begins when you understand that the strongest energy in the universe is not thought.
What was very clear is that very good psychotherapy was actually quite helpful. Not to fix people, but helping people to acknowledge, like, oh my God, that was terrible what happened to me. And I need to take care of the wounds that I'm carrying inside of myself. This issue of self-compassion and really knowing that your reactions are understandable is a terribly important part of beginning to recover from trauma. Can I talk about something else before we talk about MDMA? Because MDMA is so sexy. Okay. For me, the opening to a new world came when some people in my clinic started to do something very strange called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. You ask people to call up the memory of what you saw back then, what you felt back then. And then what you do is that you ask people to follow your fingers as you move your fingers from side to side. And my first reaction is like, man, stop this crazy nonsense. This is a crazy method. And then I got to see some of the results. I go like, wow, this is interesting. Wiggling your fingers in front of people's eyes as they think about the trauma made the trauma go away. This crazy eye movement desensitization actually changed the circuitry of the brain to interpret your current reality from a different angle. This had amazing effects on people being able to let go of what happened and say, yes, that's what happened to me, and it happened a long time ago. It's not happening right now. That was the first time that I saw a non-conventional technique have a very profound effect. And then we studied yoga. Maybe if you do yoga, you can open up your relationship to your body. You learn how to breathe calmly. You learn to pay attention to yourself. You get to see how different movements and different postures affect you. And so you form a deep relationship to your internal sensory system. Yoga at the end was a more effective treatment for PTSD than any of the drugs we had studied. But I've yet to see a psychopharmacology clinic being transformed to a yoga studio. The next thing that we studied was theater and movement. And it turns out that playing different roles in your body helps you to feel that your body can feel differently depending on how you organize your relationship to yourself. When my voice gets too gravelly, let me know and I'll drink some water.
It's feeling a little gravel, so
Okay. That's good. All right. So I live in the Berkshires, and we have a great program here called Shakespeare in the Courts, where if you're a juvenile delinquent in this county, you have a 50% chance that the judge will condemn you to become a Shakespearean actor. That's civilization. Huh? The Shakespeare program is enormously helpful because it helps people to feel their bodies and to feel what it feels like to be a king, and it feels like to be a warrior. And you get to really have a deep experience of yourself in different possibilities. The next piece that I studied is that you can actually put electrodes on your skull so that when you make brainwaves that help you to be calm and focused, you get a little reward. We did very well with neurofeedback, so we can shape your brain to actually have a different configuration to be open to new experiences. And then, about 15 years ago, two guys came to talk to me, and they said, Bessel, you know a lot about trauma. What do you think about this idea? We were thinking about psychedelics. What do you think about psychedelics for trauma? And I go like, wow. You're speaking from my heart. Because, of course, I'm a child of the 60s, and we dabbled in LSD and psychedelic substances. Wouldn't it be great if we could do psychedelic substances to see if these substances can open up people's minds to see that the reality that they live in is just a small part of the reality that there is. But I said, don't do it. It will destroy your career. These drugs are illegal. And they said, thank you very much for your opinion. We'll try it anyway. They got permission to do a study of MDMA, also known as ecstasy or Molly, for trauma. And it worked out pretty well. And they were able to collect a large amount of money to do a very large and extremely expensive study. Lots of different sites around the US, one in Israel, one in Canada. So let me tell you how the study is set up. After all the preparation, you have a whole day of taking ecstasy while you lie on the bed, 2 therapists in your room for 8 hours. But seeing the people who get the drug is amazing. People are able to go to places they have never felt safe to go to. This is not a picnic. They see the horrible things that happen to them. But MDMA allows people to see themselves with compassion. All these measures we have about self-perception and self-awareness just shoot up. And rather than blaming themselves, they're able to say, yes, this is what happened to me, but it's over. Part of what has kept me so busy all these years is how can we find a treatment that allows that basic sense of defectiveness and self-loathing to be controlled. And now it looks like we have found something that causes a very substantial drop in PTSD. Probably more than just about anything else we have studied. But what's important here is that one size doesn't fit all. Different people need very different things. What worked for my last patient very well may not work for you. Everything is an experiment in life. And healing from trauma is an experiment.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world.
All right, so there's the second video. What do you think of that? Yoga's good for back. Okay, you want to try it? Okay. Interesting.
You can manifest anything and everything you might dream of if you get in harmony.
So,
with how they...
are these videos things that you may want in the future? Do you want different information? Do you not really care for these videos? Each their own. I don't either, but that's just me. You see, I'm taking anxiety meds. My heart felt like it was like a volcano ready to explode. It was just beating so fast. And I thought that one more day and it would just explode. And so I told my doctor, I don't want to be on it forever. I just need it to help me get through. And my heart still kind of beats erratically, we'll say. Yes, it does. So I have one more of him, but then I have one, And I thought of other people, myself included. And I want to go back to that one as well if we have time. So for right now, are we still liking these? Do we want to do the last one right now? Yeah, all right. All right, so let me enlarge this. And again, some have commercials in them, so there's nothing I can do about that. So I apologize. All right, so let's flip you guys. But I like the yoga possible. Yeah, these are just, again, I'm not a professional. I will not tell you to do this on your own without professional help because of the fact that I am not a professional. So you guys get to choose what you want to do. So here's the last one from him, and then I have one more I want to share with you guys.
Welcome to this How To Academy event in collaboration with Mind Health 360, which is the home of integrative mental health and functional medicine psychiatry. We believe that you can only heal mental illness by treating all the factors that impact your mental health, from the psycho-spiritual to the biochemical to the lifestyle behavioral. One such factor which affects all those areas is traumatic stress. And tonight we're in for a treat as Dr. Bessel van der Kolk and Benjamin Fry discuss trauma, its impact on mental health, and how we can heal from its detrimental effects. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is one of the world's leading experts on traumatic stress. He's the founder and chair of the Trauma Research Foundation, was a professor of psychiatry at Boston University Medical School, and is the author of several books and hundreds of scientific papers. His best-selling book, Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Treatment of Trauma, has been over 111 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and has revolutionized our understanding of trauma, its neurobiological effects, and its treatment. Benjamin Fry is the founder of Neural Solution, Chiron Clinics, and Get Stable. He's an accredited psychotherapist, author, and entrepreneur whose first book led to him presenting a popular TV series for the BBC. His most recent book, The Invisible Line, helps us to understand the detrimental effects of a dysregulated nervous system on our mental health and how to fix it. So Bessel and Benjamin, thank you both so much for being here for the How To Academy and Mind Health 360. We really appreciate it. And you'll speak for about 45 minutes and then take questions from the floor. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy what promises to be a very exciting, informative, and helpful conversation on one of the most pernicious and prevalent causes of mental health issues worldwide, which is traumatic stress or psychological stress. There are different terms for it. So enjoy. Thank you.
Traumatic stress is not the same as psychological stress.
So
Life is stressful.
fantastic. So we look forward to hearing more about that.
Thank you so much, Kirkland. That's a very generous introduction. And I would say that your work at mindhealth360.com is well worth a visit. And your podcast and your interviews with the Mind Health 360 show, I would commend to all of our audience. So, Bessel, I first heard your name when I was in treatment myself in Arizona in a trauma unit, I guess you would call it now. And this was 11 years ago. Subsequently, I got to know you and your work with much more detail, partly because I foolishly set up my own clinic in the UK to copy the one in America, which has been a very exciting adventure, which you've helped with. One of the things that I had to do in that adventure was to receive people who wanted to explore help and to understand this new paradigm. They would come with a basket of prior mental health diagnoses, and they'd want to understand what was really going on. And I had to find ways to very quickly tell them a new story in an hour and a half or 2 hour consultation. One of the stories that I came up with was a story about, so there's this guy running down the road, he's like wildly looking around, barefoot, screaming. And I asked them, what do you think of this guy? And they'd say, well, he seems crazy. I said, would you help him or avoid him? They said, well, I would avoid him. And I say, so coming around the corner, you see a fully grown adult lion chasing him. Now what do you think? And they say, well, it seems normal now. And I said, if you could help him, would you help him? They say, yes. Instead, help him. And what's instructive for me in that is that the man in the story is identical. So there's no difference. It's just that the difference between us saying that they've got a mental health problem and not is an understanding of the context. And of course, that's what I call my book, The Invisible Lion. And some people connect with that idea. And there is this sense that people can understand that we're all, to a greater or lesser degree, running away from some invisible lion where the context has been lost. So my first question to you is really about that. It's about what is the mechanism for that? Now, how exactly is it that the body keeps the score?
Well, we have a brain that helps us, our bodies to survive. And so basically we learn how to get along, and we learn how to manage our lives, and we learn to eat at the right moment and can collaborate with other people. And this development of the brain can be really thrown off when something happens and you're at a complete loss about what to do. And what causes to be a complete loss is usually a state of terror, of like, oh my God, and your whole system collapses. And if you raise babies, you see it happen all the time. Little kids have terrible events all the time. You see kids being in extreme distress. And if you're a cool parent, you pick up the kid and you rock them and you sing songs to them and you feed them. And before too long, the kid is calm again. And so the natural way in which people learn to regulate themselves is through each other. But if there's nobody there for you, and particularly if the source of your extreme distress is the very person who's supposed to be there for you, then it really starts affecting the growth and development of not only your brain, but also your personhood. And you start, at the center of the brain, the limbic system, as neuroscientists, know that nobody talks about it much anymore. But there's a neuroscientist at NYU called Rodolfo Venus, who really mapped this out and said, in the middle of our brain is a map of the brain. And the map of the brain is a predictive organ. And that if I sit in the TV show and I start doing weird stuff, that sooner or later somebody's going to come off the camera. Or if I start yelling at Benjamin, sooner or later Benjamin is going to yell back at me. And so I know that certain actions have certain consequences on the basis of what I've learned. And if you learn somewhere along the line that something may suddenly happen to you, and you'll get raped, you'll get destroyed, you get made feel completely helpless. Your brain starts getting ready for something terrible to happen, and you start spending your energy on trying to control yourself before that energy, that explosive emergency part of your brain blows up, and you become a defensive person. You spend a lot of time trying to keep control of yourself, and yet the moment that primitive part of your brain, which basically has no cognition, has nothing thinking, there's an automatic animal type response, the moment it feels like, oh my God, it's happening again, you start acting as if you're getting hurt, as if you're getting assaulted, etc., etc. And when that happens, you react excessively, or you shut yourself down, and not only does it do terrible things to you, in that you start feeling like I cannot control myself, people are doing terrible things to me, I get beleaguered, so you start really getting a very negative idea about yourself, but the world around you starts shunning you, because you react in a way that other people don't react. And you become angry, but other people don't become angry, or you shut down, and when people are dancing, and suddenly you behave like a terrified person. And so your whole social environment starts reacting to you like, let's not get involved with this person. So it has major effects on your personality and on your friendship patterns and your social patterns. And so,
Can I just,
yeah.
can I just break that down a little bit? Because it sounds like what you're saying is that there's two discrete problems here. The first one is that your brain starts to learn to expect a reality that's not necessarily there. Maybe that's the invisible line analogy. And as a result, it starts to do things which are highly appropriate if there was.
At some point it would have been appropriate, yeah.
It's not like we've malfunctioned per se, because that would be a great function to have if the scenario is real. But somehow an information flow has become corrupt. The expectation is taken over from reality. And so once that process is on board, then a secondary factor begins to occur, which is that how does this then affect our relationships? Because if I look like I'm reacting to something that's not there, a third party can see it's not there. So there's me as a difficult person to have a relationship with. And then you're saying that's a compounding factor because the degradation of the relationship then reinforces the original problem, which is that we're not really getting on very well with our reality. Is that right?
Correct. And that's the outside thing is people start shunning you, but the inside thing is that you start shunning yourself. And you think about yourself, I'm a defective, shame, and feel very ashamed of who I am, and that I have these reactions that I cannot control. And then you start compensating for it and being excessively nice to everybody to make up for the fact that you have lost control at some point, or you start avoiding people, or you go live by yourself and you start drinking because you can no longer trust yourself. But at the core is that you get stuck somewhere and that the part of your brain that is in charge of time doesn't know that the threat is over. Yeah. And so the critical issue of overcoming it is to get a sense of time back on the line and go like, oh yeah, okay, I was really brutalized as a kid, or I was raped and it was terrible what happened to me, but today I'm talking to Benjamin on Zoom and it's okay. Nobody's raping me, nobody's attacking me, and I can focus on the present. But when you get traumatized, a large part of your mind is always ready to go like, when will it happen again? And are they going to do it? And can I trust myself? Because I cannot trust either my own system or the people around me.
Okay, but you're articulating the problem through the language of the kind of prefrontal cortex, if you like. You're saying, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that. And it is a problem of time. But your book is called Body Keeps the Score. And I think that there's more to the story, because it's not really just that there's a sort of cognitive expectation. You can't easily defeat it by a cognitive reframing, because there's something deeper going on.
Exactly. So as Westerners, we think that we're rational human beings. Of course, our history completely contradicts that we're rational human beings. When we have been brutalizing each other and doing terrible things to each other since time immemorial, but our basic notion about ourselves is still we are rational people and we can work things out, and that but we think that we are in charge of ourselves and can control our behavior. The reality is that about 3/4 of our brain is in the back of our brain that we have basically no control over, and that's in charge of your body. We have a brain in order to steer our body and take care of our body. And so at some point, you need to go to the bathroom. You can say to your primitive brain, don't be stupid, don't waste your time going to the bathroom. But when you need to go to the bathroom, you need to go to the bathroom. And when the primitive brain says, I'm hungry, I need to eat, before long you have to eat. And if you have to sleep, you have to sleep. And you have to breathe. And so basically the whole big part back of your brain is there, just like your dog and just like your cockroach, is there to steer your ways through the world. And as humans, we got a little frontal lobe on top of it to explain what we do and to understand what we do. It's a marvelous part of the brain. I wouldn't knock it at all. But the problem is that if you, let's say, like Benjamin, if you happen to have been molested by somebody who has a Dutch accent, now you talk to me and you feel threatened and angry, triggered by my accent. And you can say to yourself, don't get angry with the guy, don't.
5 words you pronounce wrong. 2 years before your brain starts shutting down. Dementia is.
Don't get freaked out by him because he's a reasonable guy with a funny accent. But the back of your brain is impervious to that rational stuff. And you will have that intense reaction to, let's say, my accent or any number of things. And much of the time, your frontal lobe will not even be able to understand why you freak out so much. And then only when you go into therapy, you go dig inside of yourself, oh, the reason why this guy freaks me out is because he just talked like that uncle who molested me with his accents. But these are automatic reactions that come from that map that gets created for us in the back of our brain as we grow up.
So would it be fair to say this is what some people refer to as the limbic hijack?
You could call it that, but that's not unreasonable. Yeah, it's not only limbic, it goes even
All right,
deeper
hon.
than that,
Thanks for coming.
Going to the brainstem, that arouse our reptilian brain. And as you know, when people get really, really traumatized, they can become extremely freaked out, extremely angry, very out of control. And then, of course, what happens is that we have these systems where our nervous system communicates with each other. And so you have this mirror neural system. And here you're sitting in front of me, and you look really nice and peaceful. And so I go, oh, and your nicefulness and your peacefulness really becomes part of me. And the kinder you look, and the sweeter your voice is, the calmer I feel, and the safer I feel. But if I start hearing some tension in your voice, and you're thinking about your eyes, you get frightened and fearful, I pick that up, and I start mirroring your response. Before too long, we will be fighting with each other, because that primitive part of our brain gets activated, and our frontal lobe will find all kinds of excuses why I should hate you.
So really, part of the problem here is that we are, in our internal dialogues in our heads, we're usually persuaded.
All right, so I'm going to stop right there because it's getting late here. So my question to you guys is this something that resonates with you? Is this something that you feel is good information? Oh, excuse me. You believe so? Okay. So, where is... No, that's not it. Anyway, hey there. So with these videos that I've been sharing with you, this is something that my counselor has shared with me to watch. And this is my first time watching it is with you guys right now. So if you're here and you are not in my mental health group life, please go in there. It's a safe place to be. I want to know, is there something specific that you need that maybe I can do research on. Now, again, I'm not perfect. I'm not a professional. I don't do this on my days off, guys. This is nothing. I mean, I am a life coach. I'm a certified life coach in many different areas, but I don't have these in my head. So these I have to do research. Is there something particular that you need more information on? Is there something particular that you would like to know more information about? You can either tell me here, or you can actually go to my mental health group live for Friday. I need to change that. I'm not doing Saturdays anymore, guys. I'm not going to do game night. Matthew and Just Stop Matthew and wife of Just Matthew will be doing games over there. I just have so much going on Saturdays now that I just can't do it. So they're going to do their own version of game night. So make sure you follow Just Stop Matthew and wife of Just Matthew, which she is right there. Any questions, any comments, anything, any opinions? Thanks, Joe. Hey, Rose, how you doing? So I'm going to close off my YouTube channel. Just give me just one moment. And same here for you. If you're watching this, please make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Let me know that you're interested in more of these things. Comment below and let me know how you feel about this. You can also email me at llewellynbissel@gmail.com if you don't want it publicized. I want to thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much for watching. End.